You're listening to the Game of Inches podcast, powered by Mayflower Sports. Now, here are your hosts, Jacob Smith and Andrew McGinnis.
It is Friday, September 24th. We're live, Mayflower Sports Game of Inches podcast, all across Twitter, YouTube, Periscope, everywhere you can find us. All podcast networks. Today we're talking Ryder Cup golf. We're going to have a buddy of mine, Andy Lang, from Wager Talk, joining us. He also has a podcast, Bump Sports. You can find that on all podcasting networks as well. Big day for Jake, though. He's doing some traveling, hopping on a plane today, heading to Montreal. What's going on, Jake?
This is it, buddy. Just like you said, leaving here probably around 3 o'clock, jumping on a little plane for the weekend with my girlfriend. We're going to Montreal, so nice to get out of the city, do something a little bit, we'll call it extra during the times, but normal in reality. So it'll be nice to get up there. I love Montreal, beautiful city, lots to do, nice to just walk around and, be somewhere outside of where I've been for the last 2 years.
Yeah, definitely. That, I've always said that, I'm not someone when I'm away on trips, has to be entertained with crazy things to do. It's just just new sights, something new, see a new building when you walk by instead of the same buildings you see every day. So exactly. Yeah, man, wish you safe travels. I'm sure we'll be obviously talking.
Yes. Also, just not to cut you off, but that's the reason there's no video today for the prop picks and anytime touchdown stuff. That had to squeeze this one in. So for those that were wondering where that's going to be, I'll be back next week with one.
Yeah, Jake reaching I think 125 views last week, so we'll try and keep that rolling. Andy will talk some props with us. We'll try and squeeze some props out of him as well, but want to get some golf talk with him. We're going to get him to talk about his journey through betting and just hosting golf podcasts and how he got into podcasting as well. Jake, one thing I definitely want to start focusing in on more is not just having more media members on and athletes and doing more videos, but talking to other people that have podcasts, people that are doing something similar to what we're doing and, try and gauge how they've had an experience in the podcasting business and what they've done to have fun and be successful and stuff like that. So it'll be cool talking with him, someone that's not done video or anything like that with his podcast, his golf podcast, strictly audio. And they developed a huge fan base, they developed a huge following. So it'll be cool talking with him about that.
Definitely. Yeah. We're in a market now where there's so many podcasts and it'd be foolish to not try and learn from people like Andy, who clearly are having success and doing it a little differently. Obviously, I think everybody's big thing now is kind of the video podcast, but to see somebody kind of going against the grain here and going back to the strictly audio podcast and having success, obviously, you'll be very interested to talk about that. And specifically, me and you've kind of talked about it before, the golf content. The golf content, I think, right now is bigger than ever. I think if you are a golfer and you do making content, there's no better time than right now to kind of dive, I would say, head first into the market and kind of get your feet wet, whether it's podcasting, course reviews, swing techniques, road to breaking 100, road to breaking 90, just kind of whatever, right? So it's cool to see someone's able to kind of capture golf as almost like a niche sport and kind of shine a bigger light on it and get new people into it, new people listening to it, new people following it, new people wanting to play.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know if it would really be this might be just me saying this, but I don't think it is. I know Ontario, across Western Canada as well, especially in Nova Scotia, with the lockdown rules, people took up golf. You can check us out on our Instagram. We just posted a fun little video of Jake, Luke, and I out at Avon Valley, just a few fun clips and some pictures. People are just kind of took it up as a hobby. And I think what's been nice about it is that I think obviously you would agree with me. It's a super hard sport. And I think that it's hard sometimes to have fun. It's so frustrating, but then you get out with your friends, you're at the nice course, the nice day, you're having some drinks, and then you start having a good time. You hit that one shot that you want, that makes you want to come back. And I think that golf is becoming a lot more mainstream in my eyes. It definitely has already always been. But to me, going out there and shooting in well over 100 and leaving there with a smile on my face is, I think, a lot more normalized than I guess it used to be whereas I go there before and be frustrated. And you mentioned the golf content, on YouTube and people talking about it. You see on TikTok, like, the funny thing is, Jake, I would rather watch the TikToks of people like playing like shit versus the people that are playing like really well. Cause it's like, I'll relate more to this guy. He's super pumped about a bogey, not some other guy that just hit like back-to-back birdies. I'll just feel bad about myself, so it's cool to see the way like the content has developed across social media with golf, because it's not just everybody killing it anymore. It's like you said, the race to crack 100, the race to crack 90. It's kind of just like the growth potential for everybody.
Yeah, and that's the big thing about golf, where like you touched on it, like you don't think it's not mainstream anymore. And I think that has part to do with kind of like the mainstream athletes kind of taking like a mainstream interest in the sport, where you see guys like Steph Curry, Tom Brady, Peyton Manning, just all of these fantastic athletes like drawn to the game because like you said, during the lockdown, that's what a lot of them could do here in Canada, here in the US. So it's an easy thing to kind of gravitate toward as an athlete. But the thing that a lot of people don't realize, and like I didn't really realize, is like it's fucking hard to shoot par. Like most people don't do that. So like scratch golfing isn't a real thing, I would say, amongst most amateurs. Like that's lofty goals, right? So like one thing that I've learned is every time you go out there, you just got to kind of like pick something to work on for your game. Find something like, like last time my chipping was shit. So like this time I'm either not going to chip or I'm going to really dial in and focus. Like I'm only going to chip where I need to, make sure I do like the little things right. And like that's the big thing about golf is you can like from round to round, you can see your game like going in various directions, and it gives you something to work on. And it's a huge mental game, like you said. Like you could be having the time of your life, shooting really well, maybe shooting a personal best on the front nine, and then say you get to hole 9 and it's a par 4 and you drop a 7, and then all of a sudden your round's just gone. Like you just can't get it back together. And like that's the big thing that I've learned to appreciate for professional golfers, is that they're able to take it shot by shot, and that obviously there's going to be times where you bogey or double bogey, but you can bounce back. Like the round's not over. And like, that's something that I struggle with. Like, like if I hit a bad shot, like I'm cursing myself out, like, you fucking pussy, like what's wrong with you? Like, but I'm very competitive, right? So like when I do stuff, I want to be the best at it. And that's the one thing about golf that it's made me realize you got to have patience. You got to have time with your game, and you're not just going to be, a 10 handicap or a 5 handicap in like a year or two. You actually have to like work towards those goals, or you can enjoy the sport like most people do, and they play it casually and they're just out there to have the fun. And I think that's something that you do really well, is you're just out there to have fun.
Well, if anybody sees the video we posted on our Instagram, you can see like in a little slideshow, we have got one picture of me like with my arms in the air, just huge smile. I think it was like a super short par 3. Completely mishit it, but the ball like rolled up to the green. I was just like, all right, you know what? I'm going to give it a smile and, have some fun. And I think one of my favorite things about golf, I always mention, is that you can play with other people that are a complete different skill level than you, because technically you're not really competing against. Like the skill level of the person you're playing against or playing with doesn't impact you at all. If you're playing beer league hockey and you're by far the worst one out there, you might not have that much fun. If you're playing pickup ball at the YMCA and you're not going, you're not hitting any shots, you're a mismatch for every single person that you're guarding, then you're not going to have any fun. But golf, you can go out there with someone 10 times better than you and just like have a good time, because you're just playing against yourself. So that's my favorite thing about golf. We want to get Andy in here. Andy has joined the StreamYard, but I want to give a quick shout out here to Sports Interaction. You can check them out. Gamble responsibly using our link, sportsinteraction.com/Mayflower Sports. They are great for props for NFL. They've got everything out there for golf, MMA. They are Canada's sports book and casino. Jake and I, we'll probably tell you to stay away from the casino aspect of it. Sports, we'll probably try and get you in on some wagers, but sportsinteraction.com/Mayflower Sports. Use that link if you're looking to sign up, and we'll try and help you out and find some winning picks for you. Somebody else that will help us get some winning picks, I want to bring in my good friend Andy Lang. We did a video earlier today together called Prop It Up on Wager Talk TV, talking about some NFL props. But today we are mainly going to talk about golf. But Andy, welcome in. I appreciate you being here.
Anytime. Love you guys. Love that love that background you got there.
Yeah, I'm just, after our show together, I just drove to a golf course and just set up shop. I want to ask you, Andy. I've known you for, we talked for a long time now. We've worked together. We've done shows, but I've been on your podcast, and so I wanted to have you on Jake and I's podcast and kind of just talk about your history with your golf podcast. You had Bump Sports, I believe, or Bump and Run Sports. Is that correct? And I know you've grown a huge following from it. So how did you get started with that?
I got started on it. I was doing a lot of, me and my buddy played a lot of fantasy golf, and we were just like, why isn't there a podcast that talks about golf the way we do? Which is vulgar. And so I was just like, let's just start a golf podcast. And it was terrible the first few episodes. And then it evolved, and all of a sudden we just found that there was an audience for that, which was guys that love betting on golf and that aren't all about the golf claps. They're all about the yelling and screaming and betting and it's like the Ryder Cup fans that we're watching now. That's the golf audience. And so we just started it. It evolved into something, and I started giving out free plays on that podcast, and then it became very obvious when we had an audience. It was like, boy, if I'm giving out free plays, they better win. So then I really started to have to dial in the plays. And we started winning and winning and winning. And Andrew, as you know, when you start winning plays, it is not hard to attract an audience. So that audience came in, and I was able to tell them about my success betting on NASCAR. A lot of them followed me into NASCAR, started cashing those plays, and then it just kind of evolves from there. And once you have your audience and you build on it and expand on it, and you just take them along the journey. Every person that is an audience member. I mean, you watch things. You're an audience. You also have an audience. I have an audience, but I'm also part of the audience on a lot of things. One of the things that we always talk about is you want to make your audience the hero of their own journey. How can they feel better about themselves by consuming your information? Sometimes that's as easy as, hey, here's a free pick. And then other times it's, here's a concept that should help you over the course of a season. And in my time doing the golf podcast, what really became apparent was, hey, here's my methods of betting on golf, and here's what works. And so one of our favorite ones was whenever a golfer has their first baby, you fade them for the next 2 months.
I remember this.
Because their sleep schedule and practice schedule gets so messed up that only a baby could cripple the best golfers in the world. so and that became a real thing where it was like, we even had people sending us in messages like, uh-oh, somebody's pregnant with their first baby. And I'll tell you right now, Jordan Spieth is having his first baby, him and his wife, in November. So watch out. So there were things like that. And Andrew, you've been on our UFC podcast where we have, and I gotta be honest, it sounds funny, but when it translates to wins, that's a good betting angle. And you've heard some of our goofy UFC betting angles, but they're angles for a reason because they work. Yeah. So that
Andy, before you jump into the UFC fun ones, I want to rewind back to the golfers ones. Who else has it worked for with the new baby in the household? Can you think off the top of your head some guys you've made some money off of and some pretty good money off fading and matchups?
The biggest one was Sergio Garcia. When he had his first baby, he was a mess for it wasn't a month, it was a year. I mean, it was just week in and week out, bet against him, head-to-head matchups, and it was just cashing, boom, 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 boom. I mean, this is a really bad one. When golf first came back after COVID, we bet against the golfers that had COVID. Brendan Grace couldn't make the cut to save his life. And so it was just like boom, 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 boom. There's 8 head-to-head matchups. Easy wins. Let's see. Who was another one that came off of? Jonathan Vegas had a baby. He was a train wreck for a month when he first came back. And just, there's some other ones whenever they have like bad things that happen in their lives. Like, I don't want I don't want to make light of a bad situation, but there have been some golfers like Gary Woodland and Bill Haas who have had some very tragic things happen in their lives. And right when they come back, you just say, listen, thoughts and prayers. My heart goes out to that guy. There is no way he's making the cut this week. Like it's just not going to happen. So you can make money off of those things when at the same time being a sympathetic human being. Does that make sense?
That's awesome, man. This is the first time we've ever met. I'm Jacob, by the way. It's nice to be.
What's
Andy.
up, Jacob?
Andrew told me that you had some interesting kind of betting angles, and like he kind of gave me like a soft one, but these are awesome. Like where did this just come from? Like, I know you just explained it a little bit, but like, how do you just like find these trends where like little things you're like, all right, well, this is gonna mess this person up, and you just capitalize on it. I've never heard of anybody betting like on like, you know, babies being born, just like stuff like that. Like that's such an interesting take to have and trend to kind of follow.
Well, so golfers they need their routines. Golfers and most professional athletes need their routines, but golfers especially, they need their practice routines. They need their sleep routines. They need their practice before the round routines. And there is nothing like a baby disrupting your routine. And we just very quickly started noticing, it's like, man, these guys that have babies, their routine is just a mess. They'd show up, you know, Thursday morning to tee off, bags under their eyes, just tired. And you're just like this guy's a mess. And then, you know, it's not hard to start isolating some of those things. And, you know, Andrew, you know, the difference between shooting a 69 and a 72, that doesn't sound like much. That's 3 shots. That's the difference between finishing in the top 20 and missing the cut in golf. So you just can I find a little edge, just a little edge that gets me a 2 to 3 shot difference in a round. Max Homa gave an unbelievable talk about this, where he talked about how he couldn't make the cut. And so he started really self-analyzing his game, and he realized there were some things he was doing on the putting green that was making him lose 1 shot per round. Doesn't sound like much, but that's 4 shots per tournament. And he fixed it. And he went from missing the cut to finishing inside the top 30. And then he said, well, how can I shave off like another shot? Like, how can I save 1 shot per round? Max Homa won the last tournament. He's had multiple wins since he fixed that. This is a guy that went from not making the cut to multiple wins on tour just by adjusting a couple things that gets him 1 extra shot around. So it doesn't sound like much, but when you're dealing with those smaller margins, it's huge.
And you talk about shooting a 69 or a 72. I barely know what it's like to shoot a 102. So you don't have to talk to me about scores, but you know, I think it's so cool you found those angles, and obviously based off my laughter over the past few minutes, some of them are comedic, but money's money. And if you're cashing in on some of these tickets and some of these angles, then hey, you know, all the power to you. I got to ask, how's your golf game? Are you much of a golfer yourself, or do you just know a lot about it and talk and bet on it, or are you actually a golfer as well?
I golf a little bit. I'm not serious about it. It's just it's for fun. I'll go out and swing the club around, have some drinks with the guys. But no, it's just more about the betting for me. I find it so entertaining. I love getting 4 rounds out of a tournament. To me, it's so much more advantageous to say, well, I can figure out how these 2 guys are going to play over the course of a Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, as opposed to 1 basketball game that lasts a couple hours. So you get just a much bigger sample size over the round. But no, not a big golfer, and for good reason.
Yeah, just where you talked kind of the sports you touched on there. I think you said NASCAR, UFC, and golf. Obviously, UFC and golf have kind of blown up over the last little bit, but just kind of talk about maybe how you got into those kind of niche sports. A lot of people that we know personally kind of bet like, you know, the popular sports, but the ones that I find like make a lot of money have like a little niche category. Like we have a buddy who bets Counter-Strike, where like I've never would have bet on a video game in my entire life, but he's been doing it for so long now, and he actually like knows this, like the sport or the gaming sport, that when he gives out picks, you know, sometimes I'll take them and they usually cash. I just kind of was like, I'm always curious about how you kind of like, if you're not like doing the sport, like how you kind of dive into it and you're willing to just kind of like bet on it.
You know, the fans can be the best analyst of of a sport. I remember a national radio person, he said he did this thing where he said, I want to read the best scouting report I've ever been given on a quarterback coming out of college and going into the NFL. And he read this thing, and it was like the guy stands in the pocket too hard. He's playing weak defenses in the Big 12. It was just this very, very detailed one. And he said, this was not from an NFL scout. This is an email for a listener who has season tickets to this college. And he watches these quarterbacks. And there's no way, and I'm telling you, no way that the books know more about Counter-Strike than your buddy does. Your buddy knows more than the books. I will also guarantee you that there is no way your buddy knows more about the NFL than the books. So when you look at these sports and you're looking for advantages, that's what we're looking for, advantages. I don't care where the money comes from. I care about where do I get the advantage. And it's not on Monday Night Football. I don't know more about the Monday Night Football than the books. But I do know more about NASCAR, and I know how Chase Briscoe has raced on oval tracks over 1.5 miles than, say, Daniel Suarez, which right now everyone's like, who the hell is that? But guess what? That's what the books say, and that's where I get the advantage, and that's where your buddy who does Counter-Strike does. If you look at the handle on where all the money comes in on sports books, yeah, go to where all the money is. That's where the books make the most money. Go to where there's the least amount of handle. That's probably where the bettors are making the most money. Unfortunately, it's really hard to convince the masses to follow me on my NASCAR picks, not my 5% max NFL play. Just because that's the sexy one, and they call them, casual bettors or the public because they're not looking at it as a business. They're looking at it as kind of a casual thing. But for people like us that do this for a living, we need to look for all the advantages that we have. And most of the time that is, in the fringe sports. I will tell you, along with NASCAR, I also bet Formula One. This explosion of Formula One with this Netflix series, believe it or not, has completely wrecked, for me, the betting markets.
Wow.
Formula. Absolutely. I didn't know anybody that was betting on Formula One. And 10, 12 years ago, I could make a profit in 85% of the races over a season. I now maybe will have one bet on a race. They have done their job as a sport, which is bringing in the audience. Mm-hmm. But with that audience now brings in a ton of public bettors that have completely skewed the lines. It skewed the sport, and now I don't have that advantage anymore. It's a bummer. I watch it because I'm a fan, but now it's ebbs and flows, and this was something I did not see coming. I did not see the explosion of Formula One on a public level, and for years and years and years, I enjoyed that me and a lot of the professionals were just raking in the cash with Formula One. NASCAR still isn't there. As far as the public is, I don't think it'll ever be there. But Formula One, for sure, the public has smashed all the value out of the betting lines.
We're joined by Andy Lang at Bump Sports on Twitter. You guys can check out Andy at Wager Talk TV for all his videos, and check out the ones I do with him as well. Prop It Up, our favorite prop show we do, and check out his podcast as well. Andy, I want to jump into being a fan. We talked about betting and some funny betting theories and some ones that have been very profitable, but who are you a fan of? Who are you a fan of in NASCAR, golf, NFL? Who's your team?
I've been a Raiders fan since I was a kid, which is, talk about a roller coaster. It was like LA, then Oakland, and now Vegas, which is awesome for me. I love being a fan of the Raiders in Vegas, so I've always been a fan of them. In NASCAR, I always love Kyle Busch because sometimes I just want to be entertained, and that guy is entertaining, like good or bad. I mean, he got in an accident a couple races ago and went on a tirade in his interview where he ripped his car manufacturer, his own team, his sponsor, and then told the world that he didn't care about the next two races of the playoffs, and then stormed off. And I'm like, you know what? I'm there for all of that. That's what I want.
Right.
As far as a fan, it's been interesting. I've never been like somebody that wants to wear a jersey in, NFL. I have some of my favorite players. I just want to be entertained. So if your team is entertaining or you're an entertaining like individual athlete, I'm going to watch you. I find Russell Westbrook to be shockingly entertaining. I would never want him on my favorite team, but I want to tune in and watch him just because, good or bad, it's just going to be really, really entertaining. And I'm from Indianapolis, Andrew. Sometimes I'm really jealous. Like, you have your hockey team that is just embedded in your culture, and I'm jealous of guys from Boston and New York. That is just, you grow up and this is just, you're a Red Sox fan. That's just it. And you're, ride or die. You're Red Sox, you're Yankees or whatever. In some cities like here, we're in Indianapolis. I feel like people got so attached to Peyton Manning, and I was like, nah, he's going to be gone. And sure enough, he was gone. And then he wins a Super Bowl with another freaking team. And so we don't have that. Sometimes I'm jealous. I'm envious of it. And then other times I'm not, that I'm not locked into the same team every single week. So I don't have that just like hard, cold-blooded, this is my like fantastic team. I look for the entertainment, and I look for the teams that keep me interested.
With the Ryder Cup starting up, obviously, round one, what have you made of it so far?
So the Americans got off to a great start. Traditionally, the Europeans do well in the foursomes. And so we're going to see coming up here how they rebound, because the Americans were up 3-1, but it was domination the first part. Yeah. So the Europeans needed to good. And the Europeans, to be honest, they need to be up before we go into the singles. This course sets up so perfect for the Americans to really accumulate a lot of points when it gets into the singles. The course is long. The rough is short, just off the fairway. That's designed to accommodate the U.S.'s length. And this is the most loaded United States team we've seen. I don't want to say forever, but maybe ever. Top to bottom, you cannot find a more loaded team. I think all of the golfers are inside the top 20 in the world golf rankings. We've never seen that before. I made the joke, we were talking about length off the tee. 11 of our 16 guys drive the ball over 295 yards. We have a vice captain in Phil Mickelson who drives the ball over 300 yards on the PGA Tour. That's how long the Americans teams are. We have a guy that can't make it who's a coach that outdrives the European team. A guy like Ian Poulter, who's a Ryder Cup legend, this course is his kryptonite. This is way too long. These are holes that are into the wind, over 500 yards on the par fours. This is going to crush guys like Lee Westwood, Matthew Fitzpatrick, Ian Poulter. The course is set up good. The team is set up good. You're going to need a huge afternoon on Friday from the Europeans. Otherwise, it's going to be a long one. It could be a pretty easy U.S. victory moving into the weekend.
Well, I wanted to ask, is this one of your favorite events? Are there obviously, everyone loves the Masters, but are there any hidden events that you like throughout the year? Is the Ryder one of the ones that you look forward to the most? Our good buddy Luke, he's definitely, one of our buddies that loves golf the most, I'd say, watches it, plays it a lot. And he's, told me it was like Christmas morning for him, Andy, this morning. And I was like, whoa, really? And he's just like, oh yeah, like this is awesome. This is huge. And he's actually over in Ireland right now. He just went there for medical school, and we're still trying to keep in touch with him. And he's like, man, like I woke up pumped today. And I thought that would be more so for like the Masters or a couple other tournaments, but he said that this is just something he's super excited about. How do you feel about this tournament compared to others?
Feeling pretty good about this tournament here.
Love the straw. Love the straw.
Yeah, I woke up this morning, poured a Bloody Mary. This is Christmas morning. It's every other year. So this isn't an every year thing. So the excitement level is just better. And then part of it is you take this big golf world and you take these European golfers and the U.S. golfers, and they're all friends. But for this tournament, opposite sides. You take the European fans and the U.S. friends. We're all fans of the same sport. But for this weekend, we get to root against each other, but in the most fun, amazing, clean, intense way. I mean, it's just beautiful. It's everything that I love about sports. So yes, I do. This is a tough tournament to bet on because they get new pairings all the time. So morning pairings coming up. So they just got done with the morning groups as we're recording this. Now you got about an hour before you get to find the afternoon pairings and put your bets in. So betting wise, it can be tough. I actually find betting the majors to be my favorite and most profitable tournaments because the books put out a ton of more bets. I have more options and more opportunities when the majors come out because you're going to have a lot more of the public that's betting on them. And so they need more props. They need more fun things and goofy things. And I don't need too many more extra things to find more value. So if I have a regular tournament in the middle of the season, I may have like 5 or 6 bets. On the Masters, I'll probably have between 15 and 20 throughout. So if I continue my winning percentage at like 60%, doesn't take a whole lot of math to figure out why the majors can be really, really profitable. This is betting for fun, and you can turn a little bit of profit, but this is just more of an American U.S. thing and a golf fan thing, as opposed to a money-making venture.
Yeah, I really like the way you kind of described it because like that's how I kind of think of the Ryder Cup too. Is it's like the only chance really in golf where you get to have kind of like quote unquote like teams where you're rooting against somebody, and everybody loves like alt shots or 4-person scrambles and then like the head-to-head matchup. So like it's just like you said, an awesome fun way to kind of bring some like casual eyeballs, I think, to a very competitive but very fun tournament, something that's completely different. But I just kind of wanted to ask where you touched on, with the pairings changing, is there any sort of like strategies or any kind of like trends or anything that you look at for the guys that played in the first round in like the morning and then that are also going to play in the afternoon rounds? Because I know not everybody plays both rounds on Friday. Is there anything that you kind of look for to kind of give you an advantage, like you said?
Yeah, a couple of examples. Colin Morikawa is in terrible form. He had a back injury. Coming into this, he was the make or break guy for the U.S. team. If his back is messed up, you may not see him a whole lot. He went out with Dustin Johnson, and he looked great, and they won their pairing pretty easily. So my worries about Colin Morikawa are now kind of off the table. He looked great. Justin Thomas and Jordan Spieth are a classic American combo. They got stomped by Rahm and Garcia. So now you're looking at Rahm and Garcia. If you're the captain, you're saying, I'm not splitting these two up. We're riding these two, and we're going to put them up against hopefully the best, duo that the Europeans have. Ian Poulter was a mess out there. Rory McIlroy was paired up with him. They didn't look good. They're traditionally a pretty good pairing, but as bad as they look, you might split them up. And I got to say, anybody that's paired up with Ian Poulter, they're going to be at a disadvantage with Poulter's lack of length. So it's really hard to take current form coming into this because, current form is based on individual stats. And there's a lot of gut feelings and a lot of watching. You have to watch this tournament in order to get a feel for it. So right off the bat, those are some things. But just seeing the tournament and seeing how the course laid out, the Americans have the advantage. Their length cannot be understated what an advantage it is right now.
Andy, I just want to say thanks a lot for coming on. We appreciate it. We'll hopefully have you on again to talk some more golf. And Andy is your man for NFL props. Jake and I love talking NFL props too. Check out Andy. Check out all his content over at Wager Talk. And give him a follow on Twitter at Bump Sports. Lots of free content, lots of funny posts, and some great videos with his buddy Steve as well, breaking down countless sports. So, Andy, it's great to have you on. And if you're ever in town, we got you for a round of golf for sure.
Just before you go,
yeah,
I got to ask one question.
Sure.
I've been having a terrible first 3 weeks on the props for NFL. I'm the prop king in Andrew's phone. I love the props. I bet them. I usually win. I need something. You got to give me some advice, a pick, something to change it around for this weekend for me because this has been brutal for me.
Sure. Yeah. All right. I'll give you one of my favorites. This is just for you guys. Andrew doesn't even know about this one. They have Tyson Williams over 56.5 rushing yards for the Raiders. This is a guy who got handed the starting job 4 days before the season started, and he missed a lot of blocking assignments, but he was very productive in the passing game and in a long game for a touchdown. And then in week 2, when they absolutely decimated the Chiefs, he was successful. He had a fumble on the goal line, which young players, inexperienced players are going to do. It's going to happen. But he was productive. He was much better on his blocking assignments, which means he's going to get a lot more work. He was the best running back. And now, this week, Andrew, who are they playing?
Everybody's favorite team.
This guy. This guy has all the jokes always.
All right, Tyson Williams has a dream matchup for Baltimore. They're playing bottom 3 rush defense this week. This 56.5 yards rushing is way too much. And to be honest, if they get up big, they're not going to rush Lamar Jackson that many times. You want to save your Lamar Jackson rushes against the Chiefs, against teams that need it. But why would you use up Lamar Jackson against a bad team? So I would look for Tyson Williams. This is a really good confidence game for him too. This could be a game for the coaches to say, "Hey, Tyson, stay out there, get you a 100-yard game. We're going to use you on third downs because we like you coming out of the backfield catching passes. Let's work on your blitz pickups." This is they're going to need him for the rest of the season, so you got to get him right. 56.5 rushing yards is the play. It's actually one of my favorite props this week, so cash that
Fade
one.
Detroit. Just keep fading Detroit.
They're so bad.
I love it, Andy. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Andy.
Yep, thanks, guys.
That was Andy Lang. You can find him on Twitter at Bum Sports. Happy to have Andy join us. Always some good stories, some great information, and I like how you squeezed that in there, Jake. And that's a prop from Andy that I didn't even get on the show earlier today. We did together, so
I needed that. It's been a rough couple weeks for me, man. The props are just not going my way right now. I don't know what it is. It seems like everything I friggin' touch, it just like dude. I know we got my own prop show or whatever to talk about. But I got to vent this out here. So, Jamar Chase, 4 yards under his total. I had the over. Loser. Who else do we have? We had George Kittle when San Francisco had 41 friggin' points and he doesn't have a goddamn touchdown. James Robinson, he's had no touches the last couple weeks. Losers. And then last night, I have a bet builder. I don't know if any of you know what a bet builder is, but for those
in the States, same game parlay. Same thing. Yeah.
Parlay. There we go. So I had DJ Moore over 64.5 yards. That freaking cashed in before the first quarter was over. So I was like, all right, let's go. Not really I'm paying attention, but I'm not really watching. And I just noticed I was like, damn, Chuba Hubbard's been in the game for the last 3 or 4 plays. Where the hell's CMC? And I go and I look in the goddamn chat and it says CMC pulled his hamstring. And I got dummy me took Christian McCaffrey anytime touchdown on the bet builder, which it was a minus 200. It was 220 or something like that. It was paying nothing.
You can't blame yourself though. You can't blame yourself for that.
I'm not blaming myself. I'm blaming McCaffrey. I watched the replay. The guy friggin' pulls his hamstring doing a high step. What the hell is that? What the hell is that? That's just a hesitation move, and you pull your hamstring. My guy just look at me so mad. I'm whipping out my goddamn headphones, dude. I'm so done with props right now. The fact I'm going to Montreal and I don't have to watch football on Sunday is kind of relieving because I'm damn, I don't have to be upset today. They just haven't been going crazy.
Clip it up, post it all over social media. Give Jake his rant of the week. Hey, you're 2 weeks in. You're only 2 weeks into the season.
But look at soccer right now, man. Soccer, obviously, I'm not going to throw what I am right now because it's irrelevant. I haven't gave out any of the picks, so it doesn't matter if I tell you I'm so-and-so for so-and-so. But I'm on a heater right now. I'm hitting at a pretty good clip right now for soccer. And I don't usually win at all on soccer. I just like to bet soccer because I like watching it. But props, that's my shit. Last year, I made most of my money off props. Anytime touchdown scores, I was money last year. And then this year, it's just there's nah, we had enough of you. See you later.
It's only been 2 weeks, though. I'll tell you this. We have our little software we join into before we start our videos with Wager Talk. And I hopped on. I'm just having my coffee. I didn't want to interrupt anybody's conversation. A couple of them were already, chatting together. And then I hear Matt, who's our other co-host besides Andy, and he's just going off about the exact same thing as you. He's like, "What the hell was that? What'd you call it? The high step?" Yeah. He's like, "What was that?" He's like, "What was he doing?" He's like, and it was the exact same thing you were doing. And I'm just having my coffee, just thinking about all the messages you sent to the group chat last night. And I'm like, well, at least Jake's not alone. Everybody else is saying the exact same thing you were saying. And obviously, I'm pretty sure it's not just you, obviously, but everybody's talking about it. So it's making for some good media, some good content. Everybody's kind of venting about it.
Oh, he's soft, man. McCaffrey's soft. I don't care what anybody says. He might be the best running back in the league. He might be the best, wide receiving running back in the league. He might be the most productive player in the league. My guy's soft. He hasn't stayed healthy the last 3 years. I'm just getting sick of it, man. You're supposed to be the best.
Well, you can't be productive if you're always injured.
Exactly. And I get to he was on pace to have I think it was over 500 touches this year. And as a running back, that's absolutely absurd. But it's I know he's getting a big workload, but it's come on, man. For all the running backs, superstar running backs in the league that have been hurt, he's been the one that's most frustrating because he always comes back and then just gets hurt again. At least last year, Saquon was out for the year with his knee injury. You didn't have to worry about him coming back and forth. All the other superstar running backs, I find when they get hurt, they're out for a week and then they're back, or it's a season-ending injury where it's they're done for the year.
It looks like McCaffrey 3 weeks, Jake. It said
and I guarantee he's going to come back in 3 or 4 weeks. He'll probably play another 3 or 4 weeks and then he'll get hurt again. He does it every time, man. I don't get it.
Yeah, it's tough, and
obviously I'm losing money, so it's making me more pissed off. I really don't give a fuck about McCaffrey. I don't have him in fantasy. I'm not a Carolina Panthers fan, but
well, that's what I mean. That's what I was gonna say. Is that realistically, I saw somebody going on a rant yesterday about NHL players not getting vaccinated. A couple of them here and there, and realistically, not to sound cold-hearted because I don't usually say stuff like this, but this stuff affects our fantasy teams, our bets, our favorite teams. We hope these guys are okay. He's going to be fine in life. He's going to get healthy again. We're not saying we're not out here saying he's a horrible person. We're saying he can't stay healthy. I don't think these players deserve the threats they get or some of the stuff that happens to them. But when you look at what all goes into football, what goes into being a fan of a team, how much, people buying jerseys, people playing fantasy football. I always think of our buddy Matt. That's how he got into football, was literally playing fantasy and playing DraftKings and FanDuel. So some people could probably get turned off by seeing so many injuries happen and be this guy's out again. Are you serious?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So and you look at what's going on in the NHL right now with COVID. Some people are just man, this is just ridiculous. Bertuzzi isn't going to be able to travel to Canada for games. What if you're a fan of that team? What if you're a fan of him? You won't see him in some games now. They're talking negatively about him in the media. We don't know if these people could be the greatest people in the world, but all of a sudden negative attention's being pointed on them because they're injury prone or they won't listen to the team or they're, you think back in the day, the Dennis Rodman going to Vegas for a night out, then going back and playing a game. Nobody used to give a shit what you were doing as long as you were performing on the ice. And now it's the media wants to know everything about these people's personal lives, their families, what they do when they're not playing the sport. It's definitely I feel for the athletes, man, because they're not just athletes, they are celebrities,
Definitely. And I feel that's where I think we do a good job of towing that line. When we're upset, it's not we're personally attacking anybody. It's we're talking about what happened, and strictly kind of football or baseball or whatever. Obviously sometimes when we talk about McGregor and his personal life, it's because it's in the media. But that's one thing that I think kind of sports media is I'd say kind of messed up. Sports in general is, equating, the superstar athlete to being a good person. They're putting expectations on people that realistically they never asked for. And obviously it's a super awesome privilege to have that opportunity to play in the NFL or be the face of the NFL and do that stuff. But when you start prying into people's lives, off the field, and it has nothing to do with what they're doing on the field. Obviously, certain things would maybe carry over, but it's who cares? You know what I mean? Who cares what they do in their spare time? You don't pay them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They're out there playing, they're still there. Maybe they had a bad game or here and there. It doesn't necessarily mean what they're doing outside of their profession is the reason for that.
Yeah.
You know, maybe like the other team had a good fucking game. God forbid the other team had a good game. You know what I mean? Or the,
Yeah.
you know, the
Well, it's like
opposing
Christian
team
McCaffrey. I
down.
guarantee you is more mad than you are about his injury, and you're mad about it a lot.
Definitely.
You know?
But like on
You know?
surface level mad, and obviously a little entertainment and stuff like that. But like I
Yeah,
agree,
of course,
like,
of course.
we've talked about this a bunch of times in the group chat about like how I don't watch sports. Like, yeah, I don't know if you do either, like sports media shows anymore, because there's just people just tearing other people down about, you know, a single game or a couple games. And like they, like a lot of these people that are doing that, like weren't in like those players' situations. So like they never played in the NFL or the NHL or the NBA, and they're out here commenting on these guys like personal lives and careers, like they're best friends, or like they know it all. And like that's what really bothers me, is because like those guys like do have I guess almost like they do help create narratives for people that might not necessarily be true. Like, and one person that I always think about, and you know, he played for the Philadelphia Eagles, my favorite football team, is Terrell Owens. Or guys like Chad Johnson, Chad Ochocinco. He has his I Am an Athlete podcast that they do with like Brandon Marshall and those guys. And you kind of start to get to hear from the guys that were painted as villains. And like you had no idea, like, you know, some of these guys were like donating millions of dollars to charity, you know, doing certain things, but like it didn't matter because the NFL and the NFL media wanted to paint them a certain way. And guys like Terrell Owens or Chad Ochocinco might never get into the Hall of Fame because of those narratives that were painted about them by people that had no idea what was going on. And like that's something that like we've talked about that I have a problem with. And I don't ever want to be like that type of show where like you're kind of just like you're hating on the person outside of like what they're doing on the field.
Yeah, definitely. And I would say that now and especially through meeting people on Twitter, I watch more people like you and I than like people on ESPN. I watch more videos of people that are getting like 100 views an episode or 500 views or 1,000 than I do on like ESPN, where they're getting so many views. Because I think, and I truly do believe this sometimes, and you hate to say it, but the more reach a company has, or a podcast or a YouTube channel, the more they turn into like sellouts, you know, the more it's all about gaining more traction. But I think that like people that have less of a following, they're just keeping it real. You know what I mean? And then you look at Skip Bayless, every day he's just finding a different way to bring up LeBron James's name. And like, you know, as someone that I would consider myself to be a content creator, you know, I understand it. Like you have to, like yesterday I went live on my Twitter talking about NFL props and NFL, you know, fantasy looks for last night, because that's like what's in need, you know. But that's not me going on there and shitting on somebody. I'm taking advantage of 20 minutes before the game started. I knew it would be an ideal time for me to go live and you know, hopefully get some content and get some viewers and stuff. But like, that's what's cool about digital media now, though, is like how many people, like, do you have cable at your place, Jake? I don't have cable at my place.
No.
Like I stream. I'll maybe purchase like the NHL Game Pass for when the season starts. Like, I can't be bothered with some of these guys on ESPN or TSN. Like, I'd rather watch like YouTubers and like listen to podcasts. Seriously, like people like us, like people, just regular people that just like to talk about sports, and they don't have any narratives. They don't have a producer in their ear telling them to say this or say that. And I think it's, you know, it's a really good point you raised. So I couldn't agree more with you.
Yeah, buddy, it's an interesting time, man. There's so much out there. There's so much variety out there. And I guess that's the cool thing, like you said, about the digital media space and podcasting, is you get different looks and you get different, you know, personalities. You get somebody like Andy, who realistically I've never heard of anybody with any sort of betting strategies like him. Like, that was gold. Like I appreciate him coming on and telling me about that, because like that's one of a kind. And like, that's the stuff that we need in the industry and in like just sports media in general, is people like Andy who, you know, are very good at what they do, but you could tell very lighthearted person, likes to have fun and doesn't take himself like too seriously. And I think that goes a long way with kind of, you know, creating narratives around people, is like, you know, if you're more looking at it as like a game, and, you know, if you're making money as a handicap or casual bettor or whatever, it's just at the end of the day, it is a game, and you can never take it too seriously. And once you kind of, I think, get that Andy approach to it, you can have more fun and you can be more loose, and you can, you know, not want to like tear people down. You could just say, hey, like this guy sucked and we faded him for a week. Like it is what it is. And like he's not lying, he's not hurting the person, he's just being honest. Like they sucked, so we faded them. And I think we need more of that.
Oh man, like obviously we got a little glimpse of it, but like Andy, if you watch any of the videos that he does, he's exactly like what we just heard. If you're listening to this just on podcast form, check out the YouTube video. He'll be like breaking down a pick and just start smiling and laughing about something, or like he'll find, like when he talked about Russell Westbrook there, I actually agree with him. Like I don't think I wouldn't want him on my favorite team, but I think he's funny to watch. And like, it's funny because it was like a mixture of comedy, but he was dead serious. He's like, oh yeah, like if somebody has a baby, I'm making like good money, and he's laughing about it, but like he's making a lot, like good money doing it, So it's like, it's great to be able to have some fun and find like interesting theories like that, but it also like make some money while you do it. But I'm happy with today's podcast, man. It was nice to have some golf chatter on and have Andy on, because he's, this is someone that hasn't been on Wager Talk for many, many years. I only started working with him last year, and I like the way he breaks down games because he doesn't go like too crazy into the numbers. He's clearly a situational guy with the baby talk and stuff like that, and he likes the niche sports. I like that question you asked quite a bit about how we got into those, because. And he gave a really good answer. Like a lot of like bettors wouldn't be able to, put together an answer like he did. But what he said about Mikey and the CS:GO was true. He's like, I guarantee you, he knows more about CS:GO than he knows about NFL compared to the books. And it's true. Like I always tell people, like out of all of our friends, probably the most, the sport they bet the most is the NFL, right? And that's realistically the sport that you should bet the least, because it's the most energy and the most time that the books put into it is the NFL. So I thought it was cool, man. I was happy to have that on. I know you got a flight to catch, so we'll let you go, man. But hope you have a good trip, man.
Thanks, buddy. Awesome episode. Appreciate Andy coming on. Next week we'll be back, obviously, on Friday to bring you more, hopefully, interviews, kind of some hot topics that are going on. I'll be back with the touchdown scores. At some point, we are going to have some sort of NFL focus thing, whether it's me, whether it's Harry, whether it's me and Harry, whether it's a combination of the three of us, but soon there will be something going on for the NFL. I feel like there's just been too much shit going on to not talk about it. So there'll be something going on with that. Then the golf tournament's next Friday, so that'll be fun. So we got a busy couple weeks coming up here, but just happy to be back and in the flow of things and sports coming back. It's a good time. This is always like I would say the anticipation for sports season is like right about now. You're getting into like the beginning of October, hockey starting up soon, basketball starting up soon, soccer obviously started up in August, football started up in September. So it's the holy grail of sports coming here.
It's sweet, man. Yeah. I'm going to start doing some live shows as well, like during games, some watch parties, or if I'm tweeting like crazy about a hockey game, I might as well just hop on the Mayflower YouTube, send out the link to all my followers, and go nuts and get some commentary for that. Instead of just bothering my followers with 100 tweets in a night, might as well just hop on YouTube. So looking forward to that golf tournament next weekend. Jake is off to MTL. We'll see you next week, Jake.
All right, brother. Thank you for doing this again as always, and we'll be back next week. Peace.